Welcome, folks. Thank you so much to those who are just joining us and those who have been toughing out 3 of the 4 days so far of House of Paint's 2020 Knowledge Conference. It's our first time doing this online. It has not been without hiccups, but you've been a really amazing community. So thank you so much for your patience and your enthusiasm. Right now, we have a really exciting presentation. This is called Can I Tell You My Story with Chris Simba from the Street Resilience Project. The Street Resilience Project is a community-based, research-focused organization based on honoring the stories and lived experiences of Black and racialized young men. The project was born because of the disproportionate number of young Black and racialized men who are impacted by the criminal justice system, the high incarceration rates of young Black and racialized men, and the increasing gun violence in our communities, and how these young men are victims of this system. Chris Simba is an outreach lead at the Street Resilience Project and a student in political science and communications at the University of Ottawa. In recent months, Chris has been working closely with the organization in advocating for equity among communities of racialized and Black men. We are so happy to have you, Chris, and we're looking forward to you sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Veronica. I hope everybody can hear me properly. So, can you hear me?
Yes. You could be a little louder.
Okay. Just give me a second. So basically, thank you, Veronica, for the introduction. Basically, like I said, the title says, Can I Tell You My Story? Right? Something that is not possible for many of the youth that we work for, racialized young men, indigenous, etc. Often the problem in their communities, and the problem why there's this continuous cycle of discrimination and them being lowered in society is because they're silenced, right? When a community is silenced, you leave space for ignorance and stereotypes and all these titles that are put on them. So here at the Street Resilience Project, what we do is we basically give them a voice, a platform, not only to tell their story, but to take their story and use it as drive and purpose to make it somewhere in life, because these youth come from places where they're from, it's like if they're doomed to join that same cycle of community housing and criminal life and etc. So we give them a perspective and show them that you don't have to pick that life, because sometimes the way their environment is built, it's like if it's the only way out, right? And what we do is we come and we change the perspective. We come and we show them that there's more out there. We come and we show them that you can take your talent and what you're good at and take that and use it as drive to make it out and be the best version of yourself. Now, that's when we talk about creative language, right? That's when creative language comes in. We come in these communities speaking their creative language, meaning we come in these communities not to take, but to give. We do, through that process, we do have to take their story and ask them for their story, but compared to other people that come into these communities in a very aggressive and uncomfortable way, where they come and just take. They just take. They want statistics, they want proof, they want evidence to back up their cases. And basically these men are just statistics to them. And they forget that these are people. They forget that these are people with stories, with a family behind them. That is a whole life. That person has a mother that depends on them. That person has brothers and siblings and cousins and friends and best friends that depend on them. But we just see them as statistics. So we come into these communities speaking their creative language, meaning we talk to them through sports, through music, through fashion. And that's exactly what we did with our artist here, D. Prince Greasy, right? we spoke his creative language. We invested in him, and we showed him that you don't have to join the cycle. We understood from the start that his purpose and his drive, what woke him up every morning, what got him on his feet every morning, was music. So we took that and we invested and we pushed him into telling his story through that. And opportunities started opening up. And it's an eye-opener, because often when you're in that lifestyle, it's like if you have a tunnel vision and all you see is that same cycle and that same criminal life your peers are living, right? And it's hard when you come from an environment where that's all you see. It's hard when you come from an environment where you don't see successful Black men, right? Because often youth, they go by example. Youth go by example, and when you don't have that example of successful Black men around you, and all you have around you is men that are in that cycle, what else can you learn from, right? And even speaking about that, that's when we also talk about identity crisis. When we look at men in society, we see a lot of identity crisis. Why? Because I'll give you guys an example. When you ask a woman, what is being a woman? She'll easily give you out a list. She'll tell you being a woman is this, being a woman is that, being a woman is this. But you go to a guy and you ask him, what is being a man? And it's going to be hard for him to answer that question, because in society, there's all these fake labels of what being a man is. Being a man is having big muscles. Being a man is having money. Being a man is having the nicest car, right? Which is not true. That's not what being a man is. Being a man is more than that. And that's what society needs to start understanding. And that's what men need to start understanding. And that's what we do at the Swiss Marines Project. We have conversations to break these norms that were created within society. We've had lives on Instagram where we talk about the importance of a strong character within a man. We talk about stepping into your purpose. We talk about toxic masculinity. We talk about masculinity in its sense, right? And that's when we lay down the foundations and we try to cancel out the toxic masculinity behaviors that have been normalized in society, like not being there to provide for your family, leaving your family behind, men being violent, men being prideful, right? And all these behaviors take part in that constant cycle we see in the lives of these men, right? So when we go out and have these conversations and talk about the behaviors and cancel them out and try to change the narrative, we take part into breaking that cycle, right? So now I'm gonna have D Prince Greasy talk. I'm gonna go back on the subject later, but I'm gonna have D Prince Greasy just talk about his drive, right? What drives him, what helped him break the cycle briefly, and then later on he can talk about his story.
Personally, what made me just go into music and not probably something that would bring me to ruin myself, was just like, I wanted to do something that was different, like than what my friends were doing or what I see my peers doing and stuff like that. So I was just interested in doing something else, and I just followed that path of doing music and talking about what I see and what I see in my friends and their experiences and what I experience in music, and rather doing that than being outside and doing anything else. And just that. That's my perspective on it.
And we need to understand that it's hard for these guys. It's so hard. And people always say, oh, well, it's just easy. Just don't join that life. You know, it's just easy. Don't join the street life. Don't do criminal activity. But some of these guys find themselves in situations where there's literally no other choice. There's no other choice because somebody has to provide. They depend and lean on systems that constantly fail them, constantly neglect them, and really don't support them, right? So it's like a lot of these men struggle to find jobs. A lot of these guys go to school and they're not supported like they should be. A lot of these guys are neglected by so many things, and it's just like you get to a point where it's like, well, society doesn't want me, and I'm getting more love and more support, and things are looking more promising for me when it comes to joining the street life, which is such a crazy perspective to take, but that's what we are here for, to change your perspective and give you a different perspective. And because we often, society is quick to look at the outside image. They just see a guy that's in the street life. They don't see a story behind that. They don't see reason behind it. They don't see reason behind it, right? So it's looking at the whys. Instead, and this just for everybody, it's just when you see someone, instead of just looking at that person for what you see, start asking yourself questions instead, and your perspective will start changing. When you see someone in the street or someone doing with a certain behavior, or someone with you know, doing different things, ask yourself, why is that person that way, right? And a big example is that we often see homeless people in the street. You just see someone begging for money. You just see someone that, oh, is too lazy to get a job. But a lot of these guys, it's simply just mental health issues. The mental health system failed them, and they went to a point where they became insane and they weren't able to support themselves anymore and ended up on the street, right? That's such a different perspective, right? So when you see these guys in that life, you have to ask yourself, why would he be in that life? Did he have to provide for his family? Is he struggling to get a job? And there's just different perspectives that you can take to be a bit more compassionate towards these people, and stop. And that's also just to stop the titles that they're often given, titles of gang members, you know. And as the street religions, we have this thing where we're such against the title of calling Ottawa group of Black men, or etc., gangs. Because if you look at what a gang is truly, a gang is an organized, is an organized like group, right? We don't have gangs in Ottawa. There's not organized gang criminal groups in Ottawa that have a whole operation that they run, right? So these are just guys that they were in circumstances where they kind of saw no other way out but taking on the criminal life to provide for themselves and to protect themselves. And these are men that have identity crisis, that thought that the only thing that did not neglect them and show them love was the streets, right? So yeah, if you guys have any questions, you can put it in the box, and we'll just go from there, and I can talk a bit more about the project. Then towards the end, we can have Greasy perform his song, his recent song, Trenches. Any questions?
I'll ask a question.
Yeah, for sure.
What kind of existing resources are there right now that youth can be leaning into that would help prevent getting street involved?
Okay. So to answer that question, what I would tell you is the schools need to do better. right? Why I would say that is that most of these youth, and the thing is that what's crazy is that when we look at the street life and crime that's happening in Ottawa and different cities, the youth are starting to get younger and younger and younger and younger. Some of them start at the age of 12. In 12, you're still in elementary school, in grade 6, and they're involved in this life, right? So when we see this, we have to ask it. So that's what I did. I thought about something, and I thought about the fact that the youth are only getting younger. Now I thought to myself, what is one of the first systems every child in Canada needs to enter? We have the medical system, yes, but now we have the school system. And I find that the schools need to start taking more accountability for the gun violence and the street life, because every child enters that system. And when we look at the cycle and the process of many of these guys joining the street life, is they were first at school, and at school they were neglected, and they come from places where they come from broken homes and broken communities. So when you go to school, you think that it's a safe place. You think that it's a place where you belong, a place where you can forget about what's going on at home. But the abuse that is done, the psychological abuse that is done to some children at school, the way their trauma is dismissed and pushed aside, right? So we have the teachers making students feel like they're not too intelligent because they failed that math class, or they did not pass their test, or their grades are low, and students in schools are constantly compared. And it's like in schools, a lot of teachers have that mentality that students need to be this way and that's it. A student needs to be good at this, good at that, needs to be calm, needs to be this. And they always have this box that they try to fit every student in. And as soon as that student does not fit in that box, they treat him like an outcast. They start neglecting him. They start pushing him to the side. They try to make him feel like he is an alien, right? They tried, and these youth are in the schools and they feel like an alien at school. And it's just like, I don't want to go to school anymore. I feel dumb over there. I feel like I'm nothing, you know? I feel worthless when I'm at school. They always make me feel like an outcast. They always make me feel like this and that. And we often say these groups, these that do crime prey on vulnerable men. But now, again, ask yourself the why. Why is he vulnerable? Because the school system made him vulnerable. All these different systems, I felt them made them vulnerable. And like I said earlier, the only thing that showed him love, the only thing that showed him like he belonged, like somebody had his back, the only place he didn't feel like an alien was in that gang that he joined, in that group that he joined, right? So now I find that the schools need to take more accountability. And what the schools need to do is that if you see a student is good at a certain thing, the schools need to start investing in that. Meaning, it's not every child that's good in math, but that same child that's not good in math can be a genius with music. You put any instrument in his hand, he'll be able to play for you. That child might not be good in math, but he's a good writer. If he sees a good writer, invest in that. Give him maybe, you know, a day or two or a week, he goes to CBC and has a little internship. Schools should start investing in the talents of our children instead of making them feel like an outcast because they don't understand what is taught. Because these same people are the judges and the lawyers and the artists and the influential people of tomorrow. That's what the schools need to start understanding, right? That child that you're neglecting in school because he wasn't good in math or science could have been maybe one of the greatest writers, could have been one of the greatest artists, but because you made him feel like he wasn't intelligent enough to be in school or intelligent enough to make it in life, you literally just killed his talent. Did that answer your question, Veronica? Now, what I'm gonna have Greasy do is just talk about his story, talk about what's behind the song and what inspired him, right? And we're gonna do that before he performs a song for us.
Well, the song that I recorded, Trenches, is really about my life when I was like way younger, before I even like started growing up. It was pretty much talking about how I came to Ottawa, because before I used to live in Montreal with my two parents, and then how my parents like divorced, and then now I'm just with my mom, and I don't really see my dad that much, so I'm just with my mom, and then we're just living like off what she can give us. So at that point, like my mom didn't have like a lot, so we used to live like in shelters and like a bunch of like care places and stuff like that, until she could find something that was stable, until we could find like a neighborhood that was able to have us. And then we finally did. And then we had a neighborhood, but there were still like trials and tribulations that was happening in our lives. Like 2017, like my neighborhood got shut up, my house too, like a lot of stuff like that that just happened. But like we just get through it and we move on. So I feel like that's like the message of the song. Yeah.
And like he said, towards the end, it's like these youth goes through so much trauma that happened, and it's like when the trauma happened during a lifestyle where it's like, oh well, it happened, but tomorrow it's back to regular programming. We move on. And because they're in a life where they cannot just sit down and deal with their trauma, because what missing one day would mean not having food on the table. Because they deal with that, it's like they don't have time to deal with their trauma, and they're taught to deal with their trauma in different ways. And now that's when we see substance abuse. Again, changing your perspective. When you see these guys and all types of youth doing substance, right? You have weed, you have alcohol, etc. When you do these substances, do you ask yourself why? Why do they do these substances, right? And you even can hear in one of his songs, and when the song plays, will after he performs the song, we'll explain a bit the lyrics, right? But we have substance abuse a problem in these communities, but that is why, because they don't have the help or the support or the time even to deal with their trauma. So they're taught to deal with their trauma in other ways. Some of these guys are in constant alert mode. Constant alert mode. They hear a big boom and they're shaking. They're looking around what's going on, right? Somebody rings at their door and they're always suspect. They look, they peek through the window. Like it's like they're always in mode where in defensive mode. They're always ready to protect themselves, right? So that's when the substance abuse comes. It's just like when you see substance abuse in these communities, ask yourself instead why. Why do they do it so much? Because at a point, it's like, yes, at first we can say it's for enjoyment, but when it happens to a certain rate, it's like at this point they're trying to run away from real life, run away from reality, and that's their escape, right? So yeah, so now we're just gonna have D Prince Greasy perform his song for us, and after we'll go into the lyrics, and I think that'll be all for us today. So I'll just go ahead and play it for us.
Yeah, we jumping over fences. Nah, nah. Uh. Life is hard when you block coming from trenches. Yeah. Uh. Yeah, we jumping over fences. Life is hard when you block coming from trenches. Riding, booty, please come to your senses. Shut up the church, can your fall become defensive? Yeah, death can be escaped, but I just wanna live my life up in a wraith. See all these millions that's in all up in my safe, yeah. Money don't make me happy, but it helps when you escape. Hey, the trenches, the benches. They don't wanna mention the days that we ate up all the pensions. The trenches, the benches, they don't wanna mention the days that we ate up all the pensions. They don't wanna mention the days that we ate up pension. I was 5, but my life was been around aggression. $5 fill-ups was the only blessing. We are from shelf to the shelf. System on no mercy. I shower every day, but this life was just so dirty. Dirty. Yeah, my brisket off the pills, and he's telling me don't worry. This life is blurry. And I see one slice, so we have to roll the dice. Me still lean up with the ice to forget about those nights where we slept without no lights. Me still lean up with the ice to forget about those nights where we slept without no lights. Mama paid the price, so I'ma make sure she alright.
Sometimes you gotta look at yourself in the mirror and think, are you helping yourself or others? And in some situations, being selfish helps. Because at the end of the day, you never know who really got your back. Yeah.
Yeah, we jumping over fences. Life is hard when you black coming from trenches. Riding, booty, please come to your senses. Shut up the church, can your fall become offensive? Yeah, there's gonna be escape, but I just wanna live my life up in a wraith to see all these millions and all up in my safe. Yeah, money don't make me happy, but it helps when you escape. Hey, the trenches, the benches, the benches, no.
Thank you very much, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the song. Can you hear me now? All right. So perfect. So thank you very much, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the song. If you looked at if you listen to the lyrics properly, you're gonna hear his stories and the hardships that he went through to be where he is today, right? And for a lot of these youth in the place that he is today, and being an artist and in his purpose, for some of them, it's a big milestone. It's a big accomplishment because the way things are set up, it's really hard for the youth that come from that cycle to be in the position that he is today, right? So just going through the lyrics really quickly, he talked about, in the lyrics he says, a shower every day, but this life was just so dirty, right? So basically that means is that even in this life, even when he was comfortable, when there was food on the table, he had clothes on his back, even though he had a shower every day and his mom was able to provide his basic needs every day, even though he was in that place, he was still dealing with the trauma, right? So it's just like you are in what is judged as a comfortable place, but in your mind and how you think and where you're at mentally and psychologically, you're not comfortable. You're still dealing with the trauma. You're still dealing with the pain. You're still dealing with the fear and the PTSD and etc. Right? So it's like there's so much more to these men, and it's just like we just see someone that's stuck in a gang life. We just see someone that lost his best friend last week, who lost his cousin, his brother. We just see guys smoking or drinking, etc. But there's more to it. There's trauma. There's mental health behind it, right? Even talking about substance abuse, he talked about mix the lean up with the ice to forget about the nights where we slept without without no lights, right? So mix the lean up with the ice. So basically, if nobody knows, lean is basically cough syrup in a high dose, right? And basically what it does, it makes you kind of dizzy, kind of more relaxed. It really relaxes you, right? It has that effect on you, and you just kind of forget about your environment, right? So basically, when we talk about that, it's just like he's talking about what he's seen, right? What he's seen other people drink the substance just to forget about the bad days, the days that were horrible, the days that were traumatic, the days where, the days where, you saw your mom cry, or days where, you didn't have a meal on the table, right? Another thing he talks about is, he says $5 Phillips was the only blessing, right? Some days the only blessing, the only thing that he could smile about that day is that $5 Phillip he got from KFC, right? So yeah, so that's just talking about the lyrics. If you'd like to rewatch the music video, I think we should be able to put the link of the music video, and it's out on all platforms. You can check it out, listen to the lyrics, and really listen to his story, because his story is not only his story, but it's the story of many more guys that don't have that voice. But he was fortunate to have a voice. He was fortunate to say his story, to give you a glimpse and to give you a perspective, right? But a lot of these guys do not have a way to express their voice. And that's what we're here for, to give them a voice, a platform, a way where they can tell their stories, so the perspectives can be changing, so that we can start bringing an end to systemic racism in Canada. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. Where can people find you online?
So, personally, or a project?
The project, but if you want to share your personal social media, I'm sure these folks would be happy to follow you.
So the Street Resilience Project, we have our Instagram page called the Street Project. You can find us there, or just writing the Street Resilience Project. We're on Twitter and Instagram. You can check us out there, and we can check them out. You can check us out there, and you can find our content. We go on live at times, and we talk about different topics to have conversations. And if any young men want to tell their story, if any young men out there want to find their voice and a platform, I'm ready to tell you guys that we have that same platform, that safe platform where you can come and speak to us. If it's mental health, if you don't have a place, and our coordinator that we work with, Mandy, she is a psychotherapist herself too, so she understands the trauma deeper, and she also can use her expertise or an experience to deal with the trauma, to help them deal with the trauma and stuff. So if any young men want to join, reach out to us through our social medias. We would be glad to talk to you. And yeah, and for me personally, you can find me on Instagram or Twitter, Chris K. Simba. And yeah.
And do you accept donations or contributions? Is there somewhere where people can donate money?
For that'd be to communicate with our coordinator.
With Mandy?
Yeah, with Mandy. So just message her, and if there's contributions or donations, she's the one that knows the whole process for that, but I believe it's possible.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for your time and sharing your experiences with us. We really appreciate it. Oh, is that Mandy in the chat? Mandy, did you want to leave your email or a link in the chat so folks know where they can follow up with you? Awesome. So for those on Zoom, you can grab the info in the chat. Mandy's going to share it with us. For everyone on Facebook, thank you for tuning in. This was Chris K. Simba from the Street Resilience Project. We are going to take a half-hour break, and Actually, we're taking an hour break, and we'll be back at 5 p.m. with a panel deconstructing callouts in our communities with compassion and accountability and building safer communities. It's going to be heavy. It's been a heavy day. These are a lot of intense topics, but they're all very important. And we thank you for your time and for engaging with us as we grow as a community. Thanks so much, guys.
Pleasure. Thank you. Bye.